All right, so another episode of Critical Weight Theory. Welcome back, listeners. I just recorded a different episode of this today, and here's episode number 2 that I'm recording today. And I'm going to call this one Life's Complexity slash Is Effort Inevitable? Question mark. It's a bit of a confusing title, but you'll probably better understand it the further I go along today. So we're diving deep into a thought-provoking Quora question that's been on many minds. Why does everything in life require so much effort? Why can't things just happen? So I'm going to navigate through the intricacies of this query and explore the layers of complexity that shape our experiences. Well, on the surface level anyway. I'm not going to, get too specific. It's going to be about generalizations regarding life experience. To start, let's ponder a fundamental question. Is life inherently complex, or do we make it that way? It's a philosophical conundrum that has puzzled thinkers for ages. While some argue that life's complexity is woven into its very fabric, others believe that our perception and interaction with the world add layers of intricacy, right? Because if you really think about it, there may be some truth to that. If you look at simpler life forms, they don't really have to think that hard about how life goes for them. They just live. Humans are a little bit different, well, relatively speaking anyway. Obviously some people lead simpler lives and have simpler minds and all that kind of stuff, but I'm not really going to get too deep into that rabbit hole. But overall we have more complexity than other creatures, in terms of having the ability to have abstract, rational thought. You don't see, I don't know, a lobster driving a car, for example. I mean, animals, they can do surprisingly complex things. They can be more intelligent than they're given credit for. I'm talking about non-human animals, of course. But you still don't see like a horse going to the bank. A duck doesn't build an airplane; it just flies because it has its own wings, right? Or a seagull, or whatever kind of bird you would want to throw into the mix here. So it's partly us that have the intricacies here and the complexity. The complexity of life is evident in the intricate ecosystems, the diversity of species, and the fundamental laws governing the universe. Yet our human interpretations and societal structures further complicate matters. From societal norms to technological advancements, every aspect of our existence seems intertwined with complexity, to the point where we often make things that are simple more complex than they would need to be, right? That's one of my complaints about the world. And I'm sure there are many other people, possibly a countless number of people out there, who would agree with that, even if they disagree with me about many other things in the world. Some of my observations I think would have some crossover appeal. But why do we strive to understand and organize this complexity? Perhaps it's our innate curiosity or our quest for meaning, to unlock the mysteries of the human mind and delve into the enigma of biological intelligence. Well, that's part of it, but I think a lot of it too is just the advantage we have, right? If we can create complexity where otherwise simplicity might suffice. Because we can plan ahead, we can perceive advantages in creating a system that is more complex, and even confusingly so for those who don't fully grasp how society functions. Like, well, I guess that technically describes everybody, but some people, they grasp the universe and human society better than others. They They know how to manipulate others, control them, draw disproportionate benefit and gain from them, etc., etc. And here I'm gonna, confound any sort of leftist sort of thing, because I think control and manipulation isn't just entirely a bad thing. It's sort of how humans operate to some degree, but it can become abusive and cynical. It's a fine line, and it's a line that is built on complex understandings and cultural values and the ability to create problems out of thin air and layers of abstraction and all sorts of things that can have confusing, flawed, and at times outright villainous components to them. Like you build a cultural framework that pits one group against the other, and it's understandable why people do that to a degree. But at the end of the day, there are obviously some basically inherent dangers to a narrative that's structured like that, right? And that's whether we're talking, the far right, the far left, and everything in between. At the end of the day, if you're just looking at the world through that particular sort of lens, you're going to miss a lot of the nuances and the complexities that actually should be taken into account. So, yeah, that's a very key component to what I'm trying to say here on this podcast. Although obviously sometimes I break down into simplicity, and in my last episode I said that certain people who don't understand something are dumb mother effers. So, maybe I'm part of the problem sometimes too. But in the context of that episode, I was just airing frustrations. And, we've got a lot of things that are intertwined with our own complexities. So why do we strive to understand and organize, all of this? That's one of the questions. Perhaps it's our innate curiosity or a quest for meaning, like I said, and all that jazz, but it could also be to unlock the mysteries of the human mind and delve into the enigma of biological intelligence. So where does effort come into play? The fact that we actually have to try to do things and make things happen. How come at this point in human development things aren't run more automatically? I know there's a lot of talk about automation, but it seems like a lot of the system around us is sort of geared more towards making lives more difficult. Why is that? The time-saving technologies that we have don't seem to really make as big of a difference as they should, right? Like, shouldn't we have more free time, more leisure time? Shouldn't culture be more relaxed? Shouldn't you be able to turn on the news and not see these screaming matches and weird ideologies and cults coming into shape? So how come that's all happening? Well, many of life's worthwhile pursuits demand effort and commitment, and when you have authoritarian type of systems or just systems of authority in general, they sort of train people to shift their efforts and their commitments into a way that benefits those systems of authority. Whether it's advancing in our careers, nurturing relationships, or embarking on personal growth journeys, to phrase it in a corny way. Overcoming obstacles is often par for the course. And yes, many of these obstacles are frankly put there by the system itself, or the systems themselves, if you really want to look at all the different societies in the world and see that some are different from others. Well, there are also lots of common ground, and a lot of that is the cultural obstacles that get imposed on the population and to a large degree that we impose on ourselves. Learning and growth too require effort, and embracing challenges as opportunities for development can shift our perspectives and make the journey seem less daunting. So, embrace challenges as opportunities at times. That much is actually true. Cross cultures, I think most societies would agree with that. Of course, external factors also play a role: economic conditions, societal expectations, and unexpected events can throw us off course, requiring us to adapt and exert even more effort. Yet, amidst the hustle and bustle of life, there's room for joy, satisfaction, and fulfillment. Well, in most cases, anyway. I know some people end up in such a miserable place, it's like they can never claw themselves back out of it. But in general, if society is functioning normally and you haven't had your life completely ruined by various circumstances, you pretty much can normally survive. So, not to sound too much like Tony Robbins here, but cultivating a positive mindset and finding balance between effort and enjoyment can lead to a more rewarding experience and can really help you face the darker times of life, and everybody has them, you know. So, as I wrap up today's episode, I leave you with this thought. While effort may be inevitable, it's how we approach it that truly matters. So, dear listeners, as you navigate the complexities of life, remember to embrace the journey, for it's in the effort that we find growth, fulfillment, and ultimately meaning. And because life is largely a meaningless thing, it's really up to you to create that meaning for yourself. Because if you don't do that, if you don't spend time and effort really carving out your own path, then you're going to be susceptible to the vulnerabilities that others put in your way. Those hurdles are more easily going to stop you. So, yeah, that's really all I have to say. This was not a message intended for sociopaths or psychopaths. Hopefully this message found you relatively normal and relatively well.